How's it going, everybody? Jordan Parker here with another video of just talking about random things. I've already got my quirky, ironic comedian t-shirt to wear for the video, so I think I'm ready to go. As I mentioned in the last video, this is just me waxing waning on random things, typically asking people on the internet what they think and kind of turning that into a talk to myself sort of thing and see who listens. So this day I'm looking to cover the issue of lies. Seems to be a big thing that people do and talk about on a regular basis, and I like to kind of think about what are lies, why do we lie, when is it okay, ever, are there lines, how do people make these little distinctions. I put out a call on the internet to ask people what they think, and the general consensus seems to be if the lie doesn't impact somebody in a deeply personal way and it might spare their feelings, then the little white lie is acceptable. For example, do these pants make me look fat? The typical, stereotypical, well, being honest won't actually achieve anything, so sparing the person's feelings might. Which I'd say that's a accurate way of looking at it. I think you have to be careful about feeding someone's ego with false praise, but at the same time, sometimes your raw, honest opinion is not helpful. And but it's interesting about that. I did a little research into lies, and I came across an article that I thought was very interesting. It's from a publication I've never heard of on the internet called The Science of People. This is different types of lies, written by a guy named Michelle. It could be, I don't know. It's probably a female, probably a woman's name. Michelle André from the Netherlands. Nope, he. This is Mr. Andre. Loves to teach people how to improve their communication skills through body language and to coach people to make better use of their nonverbal skills. So, this person who claims to be an expert on body language says there are 3 types of lies. I'd only known of 2, and I thought his discussion was interesting. He said there are lies of commission, which is, I swear to tell the whole truth, where you actively misrepresent a particular event that you are asked about. Lies of omission, that is as in the whole truth. Lies of omission are when you're talking and you leave out critical details about a particular situation that would, pretty much reveal that you're lying. Or reveal you've done something wrong. For example, lie of commission would be, suppose I knew it was raining outside and you asked me about the weather. Oh no, it's perfectly sunny outside. You would be making a decision to dress for sunny weather based on the wrong information you're giving. Lie is actively misrepresenting something. A lie of omission is leaving something out. For example, if someone asks you about the weather and you say, there's a tornado warning, and you say, oh, there might be some wind, which is sort of leaving out the fact that there's a tornado. It's not exactly true. It's sort of true, but you left out enough information that you're actually misrepresenting. And this is the third one that I found to be pretty interesting that I'd never heard of. When you tell somebody something completely unrelated to truth to cover up a lie, this is a third category. This is something known as a character lie or a lie of influence. And this is the most interesting because I think this is something that we do most often on a regular basis. A lie of character would be answer a question that is not the question to suggest that you are beyond reproach. For example, if somebody accuses you of stealing from the cashier at Walmart, from the cash register at Walmart, and they say, we're just trying to figure this out, did you steal from the cash register? And your response is, I have been an employee here for 15 years. That's not actually answering the question. What you're doing is you're giving yourself a lie of character or a lie of influence. You are complimenting yourself by talking about how long you've worked there as if to suggest that you could not possibly have stolen the cash. However, how long you worked there is not actually relevant to whether you actually stole. And I think that's interesting, lie of character, because I think that's something we do the most often is when we're not actually overtly lying, but we are being distracting by talking about ourselves. This is the equivalent to, honey, I've got some suspicious text messages from this woman. Are you cheating on me? I have been married to you and loved you for 15 years. How could you accuse me of such a thing? Again, you are citing your marriage and your length of that relationship to suggest you could not possibly be guilty of what you're accused of, but you're not actually denying it. And I find that very interesting. And as for me, I have a very interesting relationship to lying because notwithstanding the stereotype, as an attorney, I never liked lying. I got into law because I like the logic and the clarity that comes with the fact that you are supposed to be honest in court filings and representations under penalty of perjury, which, in my opinion, not really enforced as much as it should be. But when you have to play by a certain set of rules and you have a neutral arbiter, the judge, who can decide if you're lying or not, that to me creates this kind of order in the universe that, you know, call me a hapless romantic, but that's what I liked about the law. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way. People lie with impunity and oftentimes claim they misremembered, so that creates complexity. But ever since I was a kid, I hated lying. I don't like lying. I mean, for me, and it got me in trouble. Maybe some of you can relate to this, but as a kid, I had the little voice, and I still do, that goes off in my head when I'm lying. No matter how small or big, or how big, there's always a voice that's telling me not to lie, or basically punishing me for it. So as a young person, and sometimes as a mid-20s person in my 20s, I could not conceptualize that someone was lying to me, because I didn't understand how someone could do it with such impunity, because for me, I felt bad every time I told a lie, no matter how small, so this must be how the world works. So you kind of do an accounting of your life, and you see where you've gotten yourself in trouble because you trusted the wrong people. I think to a bad friendship in high school where the person would lie about himself and pretty much everything with impunity, but because I didn't lie, it never occurred to me that he could be this honest. So I remember having lots of these moments growing up where I should have realized I was being lied to, but you get so focused on your own perspective that it never occurs to you someone's lying to you. Like, I remember dating a girl I was happy to be dating, and then he started doing this Iago-like whispering in my ear like Othello, like, she's very ugly, she's not good for you, you won't like this, and when you're 14, you're very impressionable. So when he started dating her 2 weeks later, took her virginity, and then kept dating her, it never occurred to me that anything bad had happened because, again, dishonesty, so foreign to me that I can't possibly understand why someone would do this. And I think that's a very interesting thing, is that we project ourselves onto other people. We've assumed that people are treating us in the way that we might treat people. But that's wrong. You have to treat everybody as a fresh slate, and it's you'll get in trouble if you try to project your own thinking onto other people. And I was thinking about the fact that, again, I'm not immune to lying. I just don't like to do it. Because there's that old Mark Twain quote, which is, if you always tell the truth, you never have to remember anything. And I'm terrible at remembering things. You tell me your name, forget it like that. Ask me for an obscure historical Civil War battle or something that I learned in junior year of high school. Could probably go into length about that. But I'm not very good at remembering little details like who you are and your name and so forth. And as a result, that's kind of a reason I don't like to date multiple people at once. I'm not even talking about getting intimate with multiple people, which by itself I don't really like to do either, because it all kind of goes into lies, right? Information. We're sharing information with some people and not with others, and I don't want to mix up. I mean, for me, I would hate to mix up how many siblings someone has or mix up their job or any of those little details you get, and I don't understand how people can date multiple people at once. That's just like, take one class at a time. Take one class and woman at a time. It's hard to keep track of all that information, and it just seems like to me, it's lucky enough if anyone gives me any attention at any time, so why risk it by trying to get more information in? And as long as we're on the dating subject of lies, again, I like to tell the truth, with people as best I can, and while also trying not to hurt anyone's feelings. And I live, as you can tell, this is not how I live. I am living with my mom and dad right now, and I'm recording out of their office. So thank goodness I'm not recording a white nationalist podcast, because that way, no way, Dad's gonna break in and stop that. For anyone who's not familiar, it's a guy who organized the Unite the Right rally, who was recording this podcast of how angry he is at everything, and then Dad came in and told him to shut it off, which was very funny. But I mentioned my dad because anyone who knows me and my dad knows that my dad likes to ask very personal questions about my dating life. And that's the most I'll say about that. And it's, sometimes I know where he's coming from, but it comes closer to a, like a friend as a teenager asking you about how'd your night go. So I have made the conscious choice to simply not share my dating life with my family unless something serious happens, because I don't like to do the daily debrief of all the things that I've been up to, because that's, I'd like some boundaries between that. So I think dating is a really ripe place for lies, because I think a lot of people, we think dating is it's kind of a soft lying, isn't it? You put forward, it's like flexing your personality, right? You're like showing the best parts of yourself, even if you barely do that. Like suddenly the person likes basketball, you really like basketball, or if you're not into country and they are, maybe you're open to it. Who knows? Any of those things. I think we're so curious, we're so desperate to be approved of that we might kind of make up parts of ourselves while dating just because we want to get the second interview. It's the dating equivalent of pumping up your resume with things that aren't real, just so you can get the second interview. It doesn't matter what you say in the first interview to a lot of people. It's where the second interview and maybe third interview goes. And I don't know, I think we're just afraid to be honest with people because honesty is not rewarded. And if you think that's incorrect, then find somebody you've met before, at least several times, and ask them politely for their name. Almost always for me, I've stopped doing that because people get very pretentious about, how can you not know who I am? We've met like 15 times. I'm like, no, we've not. We met maybe 2-3 times. And maybe you should just be more interesting. You've obviously remembered me. I'm not very interesting, but you've remembered me. And I think this seems to be a problem on your part. But yeah, people seem to get very offended if you admit the truth. Like, I'm sorry, I mixed you up. Could you please tell me your name? Kind of wish they weren't so jerks about that, but yeah. And I think I'd say, I mean, for me, a lie that I can't get away with anymore since I moved is when I was in LA, I could easily tell people, oh, I'm sorry, I'm running late because of traffic, and no one would ever check that. Now that I'm in Oklahoma City, where there's no traffic, it's different. I can say, I'm sorry I'm late, for you see, I didn't plan at all, and I'm not considerate of your feelings or timing. Hope that's good enough. I love that. But most of the time, lies can affect people in very profound ways, and I think we see it in politics the most often. Politics is the place where everybody knows everybody lies. But depending on what team you're on, that depends on how important the lie is. And I've noticed something very interesting in that, especially in partisan leanings, that there's one thing that there are like, is that not every lie, according to depending on your partisan leanings, not every lie is a lie. Some lie is just, you should have been smart enough to not know that. And a great example of this that I hear is, like, whenever you talk to Trump people about Trump, and you mention that he's lied, they're incredulous. My favorite is someone says, name one example where Trump has ever been dishonest about anything. Not qualifying. I'm like, that's a weird amount of confidence about a guy who, like, even his biographer says that he lies constantly. A guy who wrote Art of the Deal. They know this. Even Trump's defenders know he lies. The defense for Trump not talking to Robert Mueller, the special counsel, is, in this, mind you, this is his defense telling them this. He is so prone to exaggeration, which is, lawyers speak for lying, he is so prone to exaggeration that he may accidentally commit perjury by lying to special counsel. This is how far we've sunk. We've sunk so far that the best defense for the president is he will accidentally commit several felonies if he talks to a Republican behind closed doors. And kind of sad that that's where we're at. And like Trump supporters, based on polling that I've looked at, are fine with Trump lying about certain things because to him, he's lying for their team. So his lies don't matter. It's the same thing as when I've heard people explain some of the things that clearly are not true, like Mexico is going to pay for the wall. The people I've talked to about this, and again, this is not necessarily a representative sampling, just trying to pick the brains of people, but the response I've gotten on that is, well, obviously he was lying. Stupid. It's just for those idiots who believed him that that's what was going to happen. Anyone who knows anything knows Mexico wasn't going to pay for it. He was speaking metaphorically. Oh, you mean the other stuff he promised? Obviously, all of the things that are important to me are lies, are not lies. All the stuff that's important to me, he told the truth on. All of the stuff that's important to other people that I don't like, obviously is a lie. Because Trump supporters seem to believe that they have this magic ability to tell when the president is lying and when he's not lying, or when he's lying but for a greater cause. And that's crazy to me, but it's not just a right-wing thing. I remember talking to somebody, older liberal voter, about Obama in 2009, 2010, and I'll never forget this conversation. They were angry that he was escalating the war in Afghanistan. I can't believe he broke his promise. Well, as I'm like, well, actually, he was really, explicit on the campaign trail. He was very clearly saying, we're going to bring down our presence in Afghanistan and put more focus on Afghanistan. To which the response was, well, I didn't think he'd actually do that. I thought he was lying. And I'm like, oh, okay. So just to back this up, you're upset because the guy who you supported for president was not cynically lying to you about something, and then he followed through on that. And this is why we can't have nice things. We pretend to have this, we're okay with deception as long as it furthers our aims, I guess is my big point about all of this. We're okay with lies because we are great as a society and great as a culture in terms of rationalizing our own dishonesty, especially with our politicians. Things that one side does is okay if it's in support of the larger aim. And I think of that when Obama was rightfully pilloried on this, which was, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Anybody who knows healthcare policy would know that's not a promise he's able to make, because networks are things that are controlled by health insurers, and health insurers price their networks based on who they have to bring in, healthy, sick, or otherwise, and it just simply wasn't something that was a promise that could be kept. But the rationale for people saying is well, healthcare policy is nuanced and complicated, and we can't expect the voters to respond in a rational, logical way when you explain it to them. Again, this is sort of the flip side of the obviously Mexico's not paying for the wall, it was just a lie to get those stupid idiots to go along with it, but the other stuff is not lies. And that's how I think when we run into trouble. When we say certain lies are okay as long as the person telling them supports our positions on taxes, abortion, or other things that are important to us. And we have to get better at dealing with lies, because lies are an opiate for the brain. Science suggests that our brain is hardwired in a way that it needs confirming information. This is known as confirmation bias. It's the same way we gravitate towards news sources that tell us what we want to hear, simply because we don't know how to handle it when the truth contradicts our reality. Right? So we take in information, we start to believe lies. This is sort of the same reason conspiracy theories take hold. A conspiracy theory is a fantastical lie that are told to people to make banal events seem fantastical. And science has backed this up, that a big draw of conspiracy theories is a almost social value, like virtue signaling, but for believing nonsense. It is a virtue signal to let other people know, I have value because I have figured out this fantastical scheme that has somehow evaded the prying eyes of the journalist class, the FBI, the CIA, all the world governments, and so forth. But the only person who's been able to crack this case is some dude with an internet connection in his mother's basement. And that in itself that's a lie. These conspiracy theories are for the most part lies that people tell themselves to make themselves feel important, because looking at these things logically, it doesn't make a lot of sense. They break down under logic. But conspiracy theories are not about logic. They are opiate lies that people tell themselves to feel better about the world around them. Like, the world is crazy and scary, but if they can see a pattern that no one else can see, it creates an almost social value for certain people, that this is something, I'm a special person because I see the truth that no one else does. Because I believe in secret pedophile cabals run by the Democrats, or that Hillary Clinton has a satanic pedophile sex ring out of a pizza parlor. When somebody says that, That's a much easier, more simple simple phrase to use than "my life did not turn out the way I wanted," which is oftentimes what conspiracy theories are driven by. They are driven by natural dissatisfaction with the world around you. It's typically associated with people who see a recent study in Europe, a European Science Journal said that people who feel that traditional values of society are slipping away are statistically more likely to believe in conspiracy theories as a way to explain the world around them. And this all comes back to honesty. This all comes back to needing to live your best life and needing to live your best honest life and address the world as it exists, not the way you want it to. Whether it's how we deal personally, we should have a certain moral obligation or responsibility to tell those that we are seeing as friends or romantically to always be honest with our intentions and the things that we are doing, because society kind of collapses once lies are found out. Lies and truth are important in the political sphere because when we're making enormous changes to the economy or how we treat our citizens or how we treat others, it's going to be bad if we don't come from a place where we agree on factual things. We used to have neutral arbiters of facts. We used to say science will say these are the facts, economics will say these are the facts, and let's just decide what to do with them. And we don't really have that anymore. We don't because, and I mean, it's clear to me, but I'll say it, we've had the right wing has a vested interest in attacking neutral arbiters of facts. That's why they want to abolish. The Congressional Budget Office says their tax cut plan will add to the deficit. They say, let's destroy the fact checker. They don't like the newspapers fact check them and say, you're lying. They say, no, it is the newspapers who are lying, and so forth and so forth. We have to come to a point where we agree on certain numbers and certain information, and then we can disagree on what that means philosophically. But factually, we need to get back to a point where these things are clear. And I'd say, most importantly, I would say most lies are a lot like cheating at golf, right? It's just between lies to yourself. Lies to yourself are the ones we do the most often. Lies that say we're doing all the things we need to do to move forward in our careers, or saying that we're being the best partner we can be, or the best worker we can be. Any of those things. Lies to yourself are like cheating at golf. No one will probably ever know what you're doing but you. And what you do with that information, whether you choose to keep it truthfully and move forward, or you decide to lie to yourself and pretend everything is fine, will kind of reflect what kind of person you are and how far forward you plan to move. And the best people are those who are capable of addressing their own flaws, their own personality, their own shortcomings in an honest, truthful way, and not giving yourself, as they'd say in golf, mulligans, not scratching off a couple points because, well, you just were feeling blah that day. We need to be better at addressing our shortcomings full on, face forward, and know exactly what we need to be doing to be better people. And that comes from expecting more from ourselves, and if we expect more from ourselves, I think that's how we expect more from the people we elect and how we expect more from the people who we associate with. I think it all comes down to treating yourself with the honor and respect that it would take to be honest with yourself and follow your truth and demand the same of people around you. So those are my thoughts. This went longer than I expected it to, and I had fun. Hopefully I'll be doing this more often and have more thoughts to share later, and thanks everyone for your contributions. Have a nice day.